JB here. Wednesday, August 27th, 3:33 p.m. This afternoon rant brought to you by Cracker Barrel, changing logos since 1974. Joking aside, take a look at the markets. S&P up about a 0.25% here. If we stay at this level, we had a poll at about 315. If we stay at this level, it'll be another all-time high close ahead of NVDA earnings. Everybody's all eyes on NVIDIA. Uh, Almost like a quiet session. Monday and Tuesday were like reverse days, right? So Monday we had the melt lower and the big candle at the end of the day closed down in the red. Then Tuesday recouped those losses with a completely opposite session, melted higher, ramp at the end of the day. And then today's kind of been like chop around, hit highs around 2 o'clock, a big pull around after 3, and just nothing much to talk about here. The S&P and Nasdaq small caps are back in the green on the week. Small caps are, I hate to say, in outperformance mode, but it has signs. I would love to see the small caps outperform, but all is going to depend on what happens here after the close with NVIDIA. And I hate to be like the one that says sell the news, right? That's just an easy excuse. I hope that's not the case after the close. You have to think it's going to be a monster quarter, just like it feels like every time I come on to talk about NVIDIA earnings, that's what it's going to be. I mean, you look at the growth, the revenue, earnings, all that, it's just monstrous, and it will continue to be. It's just how big it is it going to be enough to satisfy the market? And then is there going to be some kind of sympathy moves in some of the other names? Because a lot of what happens now with NVIDIA is so interconnected with a lot of the names in tech, now energy, like all those different names are all kind of interconnected. So you hope that it's going to be a rising tide and brings up all ships. I posted earlier today the implied move 6.7%. It might have changed over the last half hour. And then the average move over the last eight reports is 5.8%. So nothing crazy. So pretty much, if the implied moves flies within that range, premium is going to get crushed. The average move is a little distorted because there were two moves where the stock closed the next day up 0.08% and 0.5%. So that kind of removes some of the average there. So it'll be a heck of a lot higher from, one time moved 16%, 9% to the upside, down 8% 2 quarters ago. So after the close today is CrowdStrike. There's some other names reporting. GDP data tomorrow, that backward-looking number. I don't think that'll do too much. And then PCE data on Friday. So, NVIDIA creates if it's a sell the news event, and then PCE data on Friday will certainly become more important. But I just hope it's monster beat, monster raise, and the market doesn't sell the news. We hold up there, and then maybe we get to 650 by the end of the week on the SPY. So that's kind of overall markets there. I put the small caps I was talking about this morning. Almost looks like it's stair stepping, right? It's like walking up some stairs, up a couple steps, then sideways or a little down, up a couple steps, sideways a little down. So, that bodes well, especially for names that I like, right? I love when small caps rally. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. Yeah, just quick on Cracker Barrel, right? I had those puts last week, and a lot of it, is my experiences, right? But 2013, it was one of my top 5 stocks. Part of to me, the brand allure is it's not just the food. It's not like a fast casual dining experience. The service, the pricing. It's like a whole basket of things, but that's all wrapped around like the old country store experience, right? That's how I looked at it, right? So the fact that they were revamping the stores many months ago and this whole revamp was happening, that kind of like rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. And then that logo thing, which I think, hey, everybody has their opinions. I'm not trying to bring it political, whatever, but to me, it's like blown a little bit out of proportion. To me, the issue is not about the political side. It's that it takes the allure of being in, especially, me, I'm Northeast. So I don't, when I have memories, and I think a lot of folks, that's why it rang true for a lot of folks. You have memories on I-95 going to a Cracker Barrel, and it's like they remove that, right? It's almost like how dare they? That was my my bias, I guess you would call it, because that's what it is, a bias, my feelings on the change. So it kind of struck a chord, and it's funny now everybody's talking about, or they were talking about Big Larry, big stakeholder. This guy, Steak and Shake. He had who else did he have? He had a stake in another restaurant chain or something. But anyway, he has a 10% stake in Cracker Barrel, and he's been writing letters. He's been writing letters for the last 10 years, Cracker Barrel. But he did back at the end of last year talking about their $700 million remodel. And it's like the company already got the ball rolling, right? The snowball is rolling downhill, and now all of a sudden people are, there's like you can't stop the ball from rolling downhill, right? We're invested all this money, branding, they're trying to talk all these big buzzwords, these big pillars, our service, our brand, and create this whole plan, and it was in motion, and now, I mean, to me, it's the smart move. Stop it and reverse. We'll see what happens with that. But anyway, had those puts, thankfully locked those in. I could have got them out for close to over 50% or close to a double, let those go to nearly flat, close those out. And I remember talking about it on the rant. I'm like, something's going to happen, stakeholder, something. And I was worried that it would reverse course. And in hindsight, maybe I should have got the calls, but didn't. I'm actually surprised not up more here this morning. The thing is with Cracker Barrel, like what impacts did it have immediately on their business, and is there any longer term impacts, right? So that would be my concern, and it'll be interesting in their earnings. I think it's in September. Don't be surprised if I add some spec puts if it runs up too much. All right, so that's that's overall markets. Um, Quick on individual names. My motto over the last week or two has been never wrong, just early. And SERV Robotics got those calls on Monday. The stock was holding, I think it was 970 was uh, the line in the sand. So it held that 975. And you can see it on the chart there. I finally drew a new support resistance line in there. And then it held up. Nice. It had a candle like yesterday afternoon. Who knows if that Wedbush analyst note was out? Probably not. And then boom, you have Wedbush coming out with a outperform rating, $15 price target. And it's just like the kick it needed, right? It's got the high short interest. I mean, it's such a great story. Whether it runs into the end of the year, it started next year, I don't know. I mean, you just run any kind of numbers, and I was using the analogy of Zoom, right? Zoom, if you took the ticker away and just looked at the fundamentals and put it in a different stock ticker, and people didn't think that, hey, this company going in this space, we deserve a heck of a lot higher multiple. Not the best way to be looking at companies and saying, hey, undervalued, but I look at the same at SERV. I mean, if you just, and conservatively, right? I mean, you look at the revenue they're doing this year, a couple $1,000,000. The revenue they forecast for next year, $60 to $80 million. You're talking anywhere between 3, 4, 5,000% top line year-over-year revenue growth, like that baseline. If even at the low end, uh, and then so you take that, they have $183 million in cash, so it's a 720, well, maybe it's $700 million market cap. So 20% or so plus of that, the valuation is just tied up in cash. And then it's a hot sector, right? I mean, that last mile, I have to see if I can find the article. There was a delivery in Japan that's rolling out for robotic. A little different because I think it can do the stairs, but it just goes to show that it's not like this is a test that may happen, or hey, this is it might roll out to different markets. I think the future of the last mile delivery is going to be robotic. It's going to be some kind of whether it be drones and uh, robots, and robots that go upstairs, drones. It's going to be a whole combination of different things, right? So I just, just think about it, right? I mean, it, if you go back in time, 5, 7, even 10 years ago, and then you fast forward to now, if you lived on the East Coast, you never saw Amazon lockers. The Amazon lockers were in like stores, CVS, the drug chains, things like that. But now it's so mainstream. If you go in a city, it's in front of all the apartment buildings, all everywhere, right? So like, what's the future like when Amazon puts the items in a little drone robot and just goes and drops them off at the lockers? There's like, to me, there's an addressable market that I think people just think it's going to be food delivery, or right now they have deals with 7-Eleven. Anyway, I can go on rants for a while. The more, the more I do, the longer I talk, so I don't have time too much to talk about. But that's kind of like how I envision. That's why I look to, and they spin off from Postmates. It has that partnership with Uber. So Uber's looking to be the super app. So when you look at like an Uber, it's not like Uber's just going to say, oh, we're just going to do food delivery and robo taxi, all those. They're looking to be for everything, travel, all grocery shopping, all that stuff, right? Alcohol delivery, whatever you name it. And so that's why when I look, it's like the scale, it's not even close to me of tapping the potential. All right, rants for other days. 1375. So it got all the way up to 1220. I used some of the move to close some of the calls out for 100%. Then it kept going, closed some more out for over 200%. I still have the September calls too, which came back, almost was flat when it was at 1215 or so. I'll just continue to hold those. I think, especially if it gets 1375, I think it's off to the races. So that's my thoughts on SERV. And then you look short term over the 200-day moving average today, 10, I think it's 1090. So what a difference one day makes. Look at his volume. I mean, it's like 3 days worth of volume on SERV. Actually, well, I don't have it there. All right. That's served. Just quick on the other names. IIPR hitting right at the highs of the day here, 56.51. I'll just continue to hold my October strikes. They're up 150%. I'll have to go take a peek in a second. 57.50, right? This is I put it. This is like gonna be a dam breaking. Once this 57 goes, it's good. Like I can hear the water rushing down the hill. 57.50, big spot. You know my thoughts here, and you know what? It's just any day now. There's going to be some kind of news on the marijuana reclassifying. It's just going to happen, and to me, it's going to be positive because I don't, similar to the Cracker Barrel situation, right? I think there's a lot of voices out there that want this done, and let people make their choice if they, whatever. Not going to go into the rights and wrongs and this and that. So that's IIPR. And CGC looks like it's going to close green for the 5th day in a row. I don't know why I don't have that chart up, sitting there at 151. I'm waiting for 160 or so on CGC. I'll add some more strikes there. And then other names, Zoom held the 200-day like a champ today. I mean, normally I would go and get some strikes there, but it's like I just got this funny feeling it's going to like tease me in, get me in with some more calls, and then it's going to break my heart. So maybe I'll wait for some follow through tomorrow. Still like this name, like I was saying earlier. $780 million in cash, $24 billion company. I mean, put another ticker on it, and it's $160, $200 stock. All right, so that's Zoom. MDB, right? The one that got away. Said it to start a rant. Never wrong, just early. I had that post like a week and a half ago. Oversold on Amazon AWS news. Oversold equals opportunity. 220, then 240, and sure enough, boom! It's right at the highs of the day here. 294.98. I was kind of trying to make myself feel better at the open, looking at the calls. I'm like, oh, they're only up 800%, to 270s or 1,000%, because to me it's about risk reward, right? So if I'm going to trade options, I want to have little risk and the possibility of high reward, right? To me, a $2 contract that is $50 out of money is not decent risk, right? With the possibility of reward, right? So you're already typically a minimum for me is like 10 contracts, right? At least. So to put a $2,000 risk on something that could, you need a once in a 20 quarter report, right? Which I don't know how many times MDB has moved 37% on earnings, that I could go back probably once or twice in its history. And then you have to have a lot of risk on, right? And then you need to be paid for that risk. So for me to put in $2,000 on 10 contracts to get rewarded for 1,000%, I know it sounds, I wouldn't say cocky or arrogant. It's not my risk. Me, $200 for 1,000%. Okay, I can deal with that. Or at 20-cent contracts that you can scale out, ride premium build, or something to that effect. But of course, the 270 is now $27. But again, only up 1,200% from the close yesterday, or at least the last trade from yesterday. So I was going to try and get some calls at the open. Again, I was looking at the 300s. I'm like, no. And then boom, at 290. Actually, it's 295.79 here. But yeah. All right, that's MDB. I'm not going to go to rants, which brings me to NVDA after the close, right? So 5.5% implied mood, or 6%, $4 trillion company. Again, it boggles my mind how the market's pricing at a $300 billion change in market cap based on a binary event from data from the past 3 months, right? It's not even, all right. But that's why a lot of these names trade on earnings or outlook mostly, right? That bigger moves on outlook because those revenues have already been done. CrowdStrike, that's the other one, right? So here's another name. Yesterday afternoon I was talking about MDB, the wide move. Was implied like what was 15% implied move, and you look at the last 8 earnings reports, and the average was like 16 or 17%. Here's CrowdStrike. It's great space, but then I'm looking at Palo Alto, same thing last week. Great earnings, and the stock really couldn't hold its gap. And then I'm like, similar to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow is running up here today a lot on the heels of MDB, Snow, and like it's almost like a sigh of relief, I guess, in the software space. But CrowdStrike, you look and if the puts were a heck of a lot less expensive. I mean, stocks at 424 here, like the 350s. Those are 40 by 42, decent volume on those. And the thing is, they're down, right? Because the stock's up 1.7%, but the puts are down 40% today. I don't have the conviction. It's not a name I've really traded too much, but that's kind of like my thought here. In the 200-day moving average sitting there, 407. Anyway, it's like, well, I forget that movie or the quote. You're feeling lucky. I'm not feeling lucky today, so because the market's typically going to humble you, right? So it's going to make you do an earnings trade because you missed a different one that you would have gotten, right? That's just how the market teaches you lessons. So anyway, I'll sit on my hands. It's been a cautious week so far. I haven't done much, right? Just pretty much serve. Um, I'll just continue to look for opportunities. Hopefully, if the market kind of just holds its ground, Nvidia decent earnings after the close, and then maybe there's some playable calls and bounces into the end of the day. I mean, Reddit, I've been staring at Reddit all week. So I was staring at Reddit on Friday, got those spec calls all the way up to 230, and then it's been garbage ever since, all the way down to 208 today. And normally I would look to get some lottos on it, and I'm like, maybe I'll wait till tomorrow. It's like 2 weeks ago, I'm talking about Reddit. I'm like, it's gonna be $300, but you're gonna have to hold through the pullbacks. And now you look at the charts, like, is it gonna be a gap fill to 180 from its earnings? It's possibly. Oh, Joby and Archer, right? So you had Grizzly Research come out with a bearish piece on Archer. It seems like this is the operandus modi, or whatever you called it, the how they operate these shorts. They find speculative names that have run up a lot, that have hurdles, right? Regulatory hurdles, certifications, FAA. The thing with Joby, and you had Kerrysdale Capital come out with a short piece years ago, similar thing, right? All these hurdles that need to go over, which creates uncertainty. You can't say without 100%. You can't say with 100% certainty that Joby was going to get all the FAA certifications. You still can't, right? Still can't all the approvals and things, but they are so far along now that it like the probabilities of Joby being in the air in 2026 somewhere in the US is very high, in my opinion. So when you look at Archer's a little different, and still further back in the certifications, and there's red flags that can be waved. So it's funny. So they came out with that short report on Archer, and then they said, well, we're long Joby. And here Joby, it's like de-risk, when it's $8 and I'm bullish Joby, it's like, oh, I'm bullish, and now, ran all the way up to 20. So many different events and catalysts that have happened already, and not only the partnership with Blade and all that, the other things that are going on with Japan and Saudi Arabia and all that other fun stuff. So it's de-risked, right? And now you come out and say you're long, and then he posted his tweet, oh, and I love other people have done some research on this, including Kerrysdale Capital. It's like, anyway, let's have a great day. 10 minutes to the close. Get some popcorn out for NVIDIA, CrowdStrike, peace, GDP tomorrow. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.